Today it's my pleasure to talk to Rear Admiral retired Lars Sanes from Norway, who is participating this week in our third European Security Seminar North. And welcome, sir. And as you have been participating already 3 times, so what is your overall impression of the third European Security Seminar North that deals again with the Arctic?
You know, it's always a pleasure to come here because there are so many people that are experts on their topic, and that we can have these advanced discussions actually beyond the basic level and get into the core of the problem is always valuable. And we achieve that here in Garmisch at the European Security Seminar. You manage to bring together an international audience that share ideas and thoughts, and that's highly valuable.
Thank you very much. So this week we are dealing, and you are from, as I said, from Norway. We deal with Swoboda as a case study. So how would you evaluate, especially those results so far?
I think it's of high value. I don't see any conflict with regard to Svalbard as such. The Svalbard Treaty is celebrating its 100 years anniversary this year, and it's a historic case where we have a land nullis from the Arctic that was given to Norway after the First World War. And at the same time, Norway acknowledged that a lot of countries had citizens with commercial activity on Svalbard, which has continued. At the same time, there are some issues with adapting to an old treaty and a new world. So there are, of course, different opinions about how Svalbard should develop, but Svalbard is part of the Kingdom of Norway. And I've been firm on saying that the territory of Svalbard is the Svalbard Treaty, but the continental shelf of Norway is the sovereign rights of Norway. Some nations disagree upon that, and it's nice, actually necessary, to discuss the consequences of this in a security seminar like this, so everyone is aware of it. Because there is another aspect, because close European allies, EU and Norway, have a disagreement. It can be used by Russia to wedge between friends if there is a conflict between Russia and NATO. So awareness of this issue is to anyone's benefit.
Yeah, thank you. This was actually the reason why we took it on as one of the case studies we are doing this week. So coming to another topic, the Arctic states seem to be somehow still hesitant in developing a more international approach to the problems around the Arctic. For example, the effect of climate change for sure cannot be solved through the Arctic states on their own. So what do you see as the role of international organizations in mitigating this or in helping out?
I think the international organizations are already present in the Arctic. And as we have discussed today, I mean, the Arctic is part of the global system of the United Nations, and all the principal organs in the UN applies also in the Arctic. For instance, the International Maritime Organization have agreed on a polar code that makes it safer for people to operate in the Arctic and also take care of the environment. You have the intergovernmental forum like the Arctic Council, who have included observers from Asia and Europe. And I think that is a demonstration that at least Arctic nations want to include others because the climate change is affecting others. So what we have seen the last 10 years is an increasing interest from non-Arctic states, from Asia and Europe, about the Arctic. Because what's happening in the Arctic is sort of a, how should I put it, a way of measuring the condition of our globe. So when the Arctic seems to melt away, it affects everyone. And they want to take part in that development.
Thank you for your explanation to this topic. So changing again to another topic which we did not discuss in detail this time, but we had it already during the last 2 seminars. Those were the risk of Chinese private investments, especially in Iceland and Greenland. So do you see a risk for the overall security of the Arctic by these investments?
I think you have to look at the Arctic as part of this great power competition that exists between China, Russia, and the United States. And everything that happens in the Arctic is sort of described in that frame. But I think we should acknowledge that China wants to be a global partner, and they are using diplomatic and economic means to get influence also in the Arctic. So in not so many years from having no influence in the Arctic, Chinese investments and science diplomacy have managed China to have a much higher word in the Arctic than it used to have before. At the same time, there's a need for more than $1 trillion investments in the Arctic to just secure the infrastructure for future exploration and exploitation. We need Chinese investments, but I also think we have now, during the last 2 years, a much higher awareness of what that means. So I think, like Norway, US, Canada, even Greenland, and with the Kingdom of Denmark, are now aware that there comes some influence with these investments, and we need to be aware that we must protect our freedom of political choice when we get investment from China.
Okay, thank you very much. So this time, as I said, it's a third seminar. We during the first two, we looked more at a strategic overview. Did you get any new ideas from this third seminar?
You know, I think the seminar only strengthened the trends that I've seen the last years. And going from a situation in the first seminars where it looked like the Arctic states wanted to isolate the Arctic, to keep the status quo, a little bit afraid of involving others in the Arctic because what could happen? And now we start to realize that a more inclusive strategy in the Arctic is necessary. We also see that there is a need for an Arctic circumpolar dialogue because we see that 3 continents, the Asian, European, the American continent, becomes closer together in the Arctic. And we also see that the security structures that we are used to are changing and are influenced by the other continents. So I think those trends that we have seen for the last 3 years, what I've seen at this seminar is that those trends are just continuing and becoming stronger. So it's really been a good seminar for that.
So thank you very much. And do you have any final comment about the seminar which you would like to make?
I just want to highlight that, you know, I'm running the Newport Arctic Scholar Initiative, which is looking more concrete on hard security issues, and it's very limited in its reach. To come here and have the broad aspect of security from human safety, political, economic, and geopolitical views are very valuable. So I hope it will continue because the broad aspect of the Arctic is necessary to understand how the Arctic will evolve in the future.
Admiral Sanes, thank you very much for the interesting conversation.
Thank you, Andreas.
Thank you.